So what would love do? Love would replace the gas tank without mentioning it to your partner. Love would remember the hint and take notes for the pleasure of the surprise. Love would shine on and lift you up. Love would have you believe that you are as capable as you can imagine you are. Love would get up at the same time for moral support and stay close when the going gets tough. Love would welcome you at its worst because it knows how good the great is. When I'm talking about our examples of the ingredients of love, love would notice. Love would acknowledge. Love would rave. Love would linger. And love would accept. To be guided by love is to let love lead the way. It's to let love inform your choices of how you're going to show up and what decision you're going to make. To see the desires of those we care about and then act in service of those desires. Think of someone close to you right now. Just take a minute to think about someone who's close to you in your life. Can you identify a need that they might have? What might someone in your life need right now? As you think into the texture of this need, can you imagine this person receiving something that they desire? Time with you, a compassionate ear, a tangible thing that might help their life. And as you identify this need, and as you can imagine what it might be like for this need to be fulfilled, you're faced with a choice, because you're the person who identified the need that this loved one has. You did that. Your heart did that. Your mind did that. So if we can slow down and identify a need that someone in our life has, then we have a choice. Live life lovingly. We have a choice to act in service of that need, and we have a choice not to. We can take an action step towards fulfillment if we decide that there is a societal responsibility to care for one another. And we can make a decision not to act if it feels like it isn't relevant to us, or perhaps it's too inconvenient. I don't pretend to be saying anything up here that you don't already know about love. Last weekend, I was at an event with a couple thousand people, and we were all camping in the woods. And one of the things I decided to do with a friend of mine was to be love ambassadors. And we made an outfit with accessories that say love ambassador on them. And we greeted everyone And we ask them, what do you love? Who do you love? Will you share? Will you tell us about it? And what we wanted to do was reflect back the beauty that we saw in them, in their act of being a loving person. My friend had made a sticker, and the sticker had 3 statements on it. And it was to be an example of receiving, giving, and who you are. And the statements were, I am loved, which is to say, I am worthy of receiving. I am loving. I am capable of giving. And I am love, which is who you are. We all come from this place of love. We were born into this world because of love. Every one of us is a creation because of love. So we are all the same. We are all the same in having needs that want to be seen and known and addressed. All of us. Slowing down to notice, taking the time to acknowledge, leaning in to rave. What does this person in front of me want to be recognized for? What is it that I could say right now that would let them know that they are loved, that they are loving, and that they are, in fact, love itself? The beauty of love is its relationship to unconditionality. Pure love isn't love given when you're a good girl or a good boy. Love doesn't require you to show up with certain emotions but not have other emotions. Pure love is all-encompassing, and it embraces the whole self, all the parts, all the feelings, all the emotions, even the unpleasant ones. I've noticed that when I am held in pure love, there is no way of being that is not okay. Which is why taking notice of any story that we're telling ourselves that gets in the way of being loved and feeling loved is a story. And the opposite of love is fear. Fear that gets in the way of love. It's the presence of fear that keeps us separated. Fear keeps us distant. Who here hasn't heard stranger danger? And I understand its importance for keeping kids safe, so I'm not making light of that. But as adults, do we shy away from the unknown, the unfamiliar? Do we make eye contact with the person on the street? I woke up in the wee hours one night this last week, and I wrote down these words. If what you are feeling is fear, turn up the love. When you lean into love, fear dissolves. There can be no worry or distressing thought that gets validated by love. As the opening song that Bob played for us suggests, there is only an abundance of love. In Dr. Susan Campbell's book, Getting Real, the 10 true skills you need to living an authentic life, she talks about the importance of knowing your fear as a first step. This alone is an act of love, identifying your fear. So she writes, getting familiar with your fears can help you take them more lightly. Many people suffer unnecessarily because they try to hide what they're afraid of. If you accept your fears, they won't rule your behavior as much as if you try to pretend they don't exist. Being specific about what you fear helps to eliminate the kind of generalized anxiety that many people live with every day. Often when you attempt to name what you specifically fear, you realize that your fear is without substance. You discover that your fear is an imagining, probably related to a false belief that originated when you were at a much more vulnerable stage of life. So what I get from this is the essential process of pausing inside yourself whenever you realize that the sensation of fear is present. Do we know the texture of fear in our body? How do we even know that we're afraid or that we're scared? What's happening? Where do we notice fear? Can we find it? Is it a clenched stomach? Or a pain in our neck? Or a twitch in our foot? Next time you feel a sensation of fear, of not knowing, see if you can tune into how you recognize it. There's information there. It wants you to know something. All of our emotions carry information that tell us who we are, where we've come from, what we've endured. All of these memories. So if we get curious, instead of ignoring or pretending that the feelings don't exist, but we instead ask them, we ask them, what do they want us to know? What does this feeling in my body want me to know? Is the situation unsafe? Do I need to step away? Is this something I can explore? Is there something to change? Is there something to say? Can I just say, I feel uncomfortable right now? Can I just say the words? Just name the thing that's happening without the story of what it means, but just to name, I feel uncomfortable. I had an experience of this recently with spending 10 plus hours in emergency on Friday, waiting to see a doctor. And in my back pain, I couldn't sit. And so I was standing. And when I first walked in, the marquee said, the average person will wait 3.5 hours today to see a doctor. And I thought, this is impossible. There is no way that this can be true. I couldn't possibly stand here for 3.5 hours. It was beyond me. And it took 7.5 hours for my name to be called, to be put in a room, and another probably hour plus before a doctor walked in. And I got to sit with the discomfort and have my partner there to hold my hand. And something occurred in this time, in this struggle. I resisted and I tensed, and I was holding my body so tight that I was making it worse. And it's in the surrender and the relaxing and the welcoming of the pain that things soften. And only then did I get some relief. So what was needed was for me to turn the volume knob of love up. How can I be more kind to myself in this moment? How can I relax my shoulders, my back, my hips? How can I soften into this experience? What does that look like? So I kind of want to wonder aloud with all of you right now, like, how do we turn up the love? I could talk about the ingredients of love. I could talk about the letters that Paul wrote to the Corinthians about love being patient and kind and being generous and not boastful, as so often is read at weddings. The ingredients of what love is. But what I find myself more interested in talking about is how it feels when we are kind. How it feels when we are patient. How it feels when we demonstrate the ingredients of love, not only to other people, but to ourselves. Most importantly, to ourselves. I expect many of you can relate to taking care of others with more love than you might take care of yourself. And my invitation today is to ask what love would do in service of yourself. How would you behave? What would you say yes to? And what would you be willing to say no to? I've heard this phrase, we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us by what we say yes to, what we allow, what we accept, what we don't name. And there's a perfect story in Susan's book in a later chapter that I wanted to share with you. It's a perspective of one of her clients that came to a workshop, and it was on this exact teaching of basically what we experience in our lives and what it teaches us about what's okay and what's not okay. So I just want to see if there's anything here for us today if I were to read this example before I close my talk. In one workshop, a man named Michael was telling us a short version of his life story as part of an exercise about uncovering false beliefs. He told us how his father always seemed to agree to do anything his mother wanted, from home improvement projects to vacations. As far as Michael could tell, his father never asserted his own desires, but he seemed really happy, unlike his mother, who was always complaining. Michael's story showed how he developed a belief that it's better to be compliant and happy than assertive and unhappy. He had unconsciously linked assertiveness with discontentedness and compliance with happiness and contentment. Now, as an adult, Michael continued to hold on to this belief. Telling his life story helped him to see his tendency to deny what is, whenever clearly perceiving reality might lead to self-assertion. So meaning to say that whenever he thought that what he should do is assert himself, he held back. He held back from asserting himself because of this example he saw between his mom and dad. So just seeing this truth helped Michael take a deeper look at his feelings about wanting things. He discovered that although sometimes he was content with how things were, sometimes he wasn't. But he always acted as if he was content. He also realized that sometimes he also realized that he sometimes did feel his wants or his frustrations many days or weeks after the fact. So that kind of gnawing, lingering feeling that stays with you when you're not true to yourself. Just noticing this pattern was a really good start for Michael. Even if his reactions were delayed, he was beginning to see that he did have desires and that he did feel anger sometimes when he was frustrated. And he started to use these tools, and he got his energy moving again. And so these tools are the recognition that there's something in the way of you giving yourself more of what you want. What would love do? What would love do when we turn that lens on ourselves? How many here have heard about the platinum rule? So the golden rule, we might all know, is do unto others as we would have them do to us. So this is to give what you want to get. But the platinum rule is to give the way the other person wants to receive. When we put love at the center of our operating system, and we make decisions and we act through the lens of love, it simplifies our process. So this platinum rule, treat others as they want to be treated. It's a shift from the golden rule. And what it requires is for us to access curiosity and set down our assumptions that everybody wants the same things we want in the same way. And instead say, how would loving you a little bit more look like? How can I demonstrate my love for you in a way that feels good to you? So that's my message today for what would love do, would be to inquire with those around you about what love looks like to them, and then make that your mission. And ask for what you want in return so that people can love you the way you want to be loved. Because it's all available if we have the courage and we pause to find out what it really means to be loving.